Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. I'm going to have a look at where the next 8 to 10 days in today's video, which takes us to around the 23rd of October, I think. So going towards the final week of the month. Still same idea we had yesterday, that high pressure going to be very, very dominant, certainly through the next week or so. Perhaps just a few hints of a change, maybe on the latest GFS. It got run in around day 10. But it's a long way off and it doesn't really even then go with it. But something does happen around Iceland with an area of low pressure. But really high pressure is dominating, and this could turn into a notably dry October, actually. Could really have a very dry month indeed, albeit with quite cool temperatures. Have a look at the central England temperature there in a second. But before I get on with that, just very quickly to say about the ads at GazWeather. There's links to articles on all the pages at GazWeather, so have a browse through widgets, click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. And because you're going from GazWeather to where an article is, we will get a revenue fee on what you're doing. There's also video ads on most pages which open up in the content. And when you've watched them, they'll close back up again. So thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. So we'll just start off with central temperature from Hadley, provisional up to the 12th. We currently stand at 11.8. As I say, this is provisional. An anomaly of 0.1 degrees, just a 0.1 of a degree below average. So more or less bang on average, really. I say that's provisional up to the 12th. That's probably going to drop a bit, though, actually, over the next day or so, because we're in a pretty chilly air mass from the east, and we're having some quite cold nights, so I'd expect that to take a bit of a tumble over the next few days. And let's say 2015, I've already explained this in the videos, turning into a much cooler year compared to last year. 500 millibar heights for next week to 10 days. Got the E70F on the top and the GFS on the bottom. We've flipped them around. As I say, these take us up to around the 23rd of October. Red extrapolates to high pressure. Blue extrapolates for low pressure. Won't dwell on these too long because it's very obvious what's going on. Big area above average heights, big area of red sitting right over the top of the country on both of these models. So it's high pressure in there on both of the ECM and the GFS up to day 10. No sort of beat about the bush about that one. High pressure holds sway. And, well, that's strong. It will take a little while to break that down even beyond that. So for the foreseeable future, really, high pressure is in and dominating. The GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles show, well, we're in cool air at the moment. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average. We're significantly below average at the moment. So as I say, that central England temperature will take a tumble. But it's a little bit of a warming trend there as we go through the weekend and into the start of next week, when we actually go a little bit above average. Now, what we have to keep in mind with this is that a lot of these members of the ensemble that are going a bit above average are still keeping high pressure around the country. So we're late on in the year now. You have to start thinking a little bit about inversions, about the fact that although it may be warm aloft, and these are upper air temperatures in the upper atmosphere, down on the surface, actually, it will probably be cooler than these temperatures suggest, unless you've got a long fetch southwesterly or some sort of southerly breeze wafting up from Spain. That's what we had at the end of October last year. We had some exceptionally mild days. But if you're under a static area of high pressure, even with fairly warm air aloft, you'll still be quite cold, particularly at night on the surface. So I'll talk a little bit more about inversions in a second. But the overall trend is to lift the temperatures up a bit through into next week, although with a huge amount of scatter. I explained this yesterday in the video. We've got some members of the ensemble going pretty warm indeed in the upper atmosphere, but some are looking cold and wintry. So it really is anyone's guess there as to what's going on through the course of next week in terms of these temperatures. We've got something, well, something like a 20-degree temperature differential there between the warmest members of the ensemble and the coldest. So that's a huge difference between the warmest and the coldest. But do keep in mind that even those warm members could be under a static area of high pressure, so not as mild, not as warm as you would probably think. In terms of rainfall spikes, well, these spikes just here are associated with showers coming in off the North Sea on an easterly wind through this week and into the weekend. think it's going to be a lot of dry weather. You have to go into the east and the southeast to find those showers. Not really much in the way of rain through the course of next week either. Maybe the precipitation spikes come back a little bit more definitively there right towards the end of the month. This is 27th of October. But of course, at that point, we're into the very extended range of the GFS model. So not to be relied upon at all. No, overall, it's a drier than average spell coming up at least for the next week to 10 days. Just to explain a little bit more about inversion. So this chart is from the 1st of February 2006. You can see that we're under an area of high pressure here across not just the British Isles but most parts of Europe. If you have a look at the upper air temperatures, actually quite mild. We're in those mild yellow colours. Notice the blue sub-zero upper air temperatures are pushed up towards Russia and Scandinavia. Most of Europe bathed in yellow colours, looking quite mild. But this was a cold day, actually, despite those warm upper air temperatures. Temperatures on the surface where we live were below freezing across many parts of the country all day on the 1st of February 2006. And the reason was that we had an inversion, which is where the heat on the surface radiates away into space. The days are very short, the nights are very long. So the heat radiates out into space under these static conditions, and despite being warm aloft in the atmosphere, down on the surface, it gets very cold. Some people consider this to be sort of faux cold, fake cold. I've heard that expression before. Personally, I think cold is cold, really, whether it's coming from a beast from the east or whether it's coming from an inversion. It makes little difference. You still got to put your coat on, put your scarf on if temperatures are sub-zero day and night. So that's what an inversion looks like. Around middle of October, when we do have to start thinking a little bit about inversions under static high pressure conditions. So I hope I explained that okay. Temperature anomaly for the coming week, going from the 13th to the 21st of October, coming out cooler than average once again. The precipitation anomaly, quite interesting this. It's generally drier than average, but notice around the east coast, it's actually gone a little bit wetter than average. That's because we're bringing in showers over the next few days off the North Sea on an easterly wind round these eastern coasts. If this was winter, these would be snow showers. We're just talking about rain showers, but it looks like they could be quite heavy actually on the east coast because it is a little bit wetter than average right there on the East Anglian and southeastern coast. But that is a very restricted area, you will notice, and most parts of the country having another significantly drier weekly period from the 13th to the 21st of October. So here's the GFS for Saturday, and it's in there across the north of Scotland. There's the easterly wind being dragged in across England and Wales. Notice this area of low pressure across Germany. You've got to keep an eye on that. It does get quite close to the east coast as we go through into Sunday. That could bring perhaps even more persistent rain into East Anglia and South East England. It's a low risk, but risk is there. As I say, if this was winter, this would be bringing the risk of persistent snow in from Germany, but it's still October, so it's just the risk of persistent rain. But you've got to keep an eye on it because it could be quite wet down in the far southeast by Sunday if this low pressure does come in. But otherwise, it's high pressure all the way, dominating to the north and west of the country. It's very cool air, though, still with wind from the east or the northeast. Going through into next week, if anything, the high pressure sort of builds over the country again. So very settled conditions. Notice this low pressure down across Iberia could bring some very wet weather for Spain and Portugal. So if you're off there for a holiday next week, I would take a Mac with you because it won't be raining all the time, but it could be some quite torrential rain at times with the risk of thunderstorms. But for us, we remain under this area of high pressure still into next week. Now, this is the change midweek that I was talking about. This area of low pressure just here around Iceland. Suddenly, and I'll go back, we get a very deep area of low pressure developing. There's nothing much to see around Iceland on Monday, but by Wednesday that low pressure has deepened like mad. And I think the central pressure with that is going down to something like 965 millibars, so that's a very intense storm. It will be putting, if it comes off, it may not do, it may be going over the top 6 o'clock run of the GFS, but if it comes off, it will be putting this high pressure under pressure to try and break it down. What actually happens is that low pressure just ploughs off into Scandinavia and we remain under generally high pressure conditions, but got to keep an eye on that. If we do get a low pressure deepening like like that around Iceland next week, it could just very quickly break us out of this anticyclonic pattern. Things can change very quick. As soon as you think you've got an established pattern, things can change very, very quickly with the weather, so let's keep an eye on it. But I think the GFS is probably going over the top. The east end of the Earth, again, high pressure dominating for the weekend. There's that easterly wind, bringing risk of showers into the southeast. That goes on into the start of next week with the high pressure keeping it settled. And it just carries on up to day 10, really lots of anticyclonic influences. Low pressure is around Iceland, not as deep as we see on the GFS model, but maybe signs that by day 10, the 23rd of October, the high pressure is weakening a bit, but still really up to day 10 is high pressure dominant. GEM is all very similar. There's the easterly for the weekend with risk of showers in the east and the south. Then the high pressure sort of repositions over top of the country through the course of next week. Day 10 possibly indicating some sort of a breakdown developing. This is coming in from the south and the southwest actually as the high pressure going off into the east of Europe. I'm not sure about that at all. The GEM very often looks completely different at day 10, and I think if we do break out of this high pressure, it's probably most likely to happen as the GFS sort of hints that a deep area of low pressure would form around Iceland and possibly push us, just push a high pressure away and break us into more unsettled pattern. But really up to day 10, up to 8 to 10 days away, high pressure is dominating. It doesn't mean it's going to be completely dry because we've got this easterly wind coming in through rest of this week and into the weekend, which will bring us risk of showers into the southeast, possibly even longer spells of rain around the East Anglian and southeastern coastal fringes. But the bulk of the country will be dry away from the east and the southeast. And the temperature's pretty cool as well. So dry and cool basically sums it up away from the southeast where there could be some showers. 5-day forecast tomorrow, so come back for that. Tonight I'll have the results of the poll. We've been asking what you think is likely to happen for the winter. Been a phenomenal response, had over 300 votes with that one. So there's a page, you can get to it from the link underneath this video here on the homepage. There's a page where I'll be talking about the poll results tonight, so come back for that. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.